Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mingry Nation podcast. Welcome to it. Um, hey, we're still NIT champs. North Texas is. I think I saw the Dallas Morning News say it's the biggest championship that North Texas has won in 71 years. And I was thinking about it as I was walking up the stairs to sit down and record with Mr. Greg Godecker. How you doing on this fine Sunday morning?
I'm doing all right. A little tired. I'm at my parents' house in the Berg. I got the mom. My mom's working on some pancakes for me, so we're all good.
I mean, yeah, that doesn't sound like a rough life at all. I had pancakes this morning because my lovely wife was making some. So I think you were joking. I think in Super Secret Mean Green Nation Slack. Hey, so what did you give up to be able to go to Vegas, Las Vegas? Well, we got three puppies. Now, did I give those up? Was it a trade? Did we look at each other and say tit for tat? No, but I went to Vegas, and soon after she said, "Hey, I want to get these puppies," and I was like, "I guess I can't really say no." Anyway, so we got puppies, and so, but it's been waking up in the middle of the night. Good times. They're real cute. Uh, so like, hey, shout out. So here's the thing. I'm staring at it over here. Is podcasting gear, and friend of the show, MingryNation.com member Chris Rodriguez sent that over. A little donation to the show. I think in part because he was like, "Yeah, I don't like the way you move that mic around, buddy, all the time when you do the video podcast." And the other part was like, "Hey, no, just it's some stuff, quality stuff. We can make the podcast a little bit better." So hey, we appreciate that. It was not asked for. I didn't say, "Hey, please donate anything" or anything like that. He said just a little donation to the show. So shout out there at the top of the hour. We appreciate that. I'm not using it at the moment because like it was bang bang bang. I got in back home Friday morning, right? After celebrating the win Thursday evening. I got about 2 hours of sleep. I got to tell you. Woke up early, got on the plane, slept on the plane, landed back home, immediately went to work. Also, there was like a tornado watch around here, and then played with my kids. They're like, "Hey, come on, Dad, let's watch a movie," and I fell asleep during the movie. And then and then wake up early Saturday, and we had dance class. Take one kid, and then took the kids to a baseball game where it was cold. So I had to buy a lot of gear, but we're all good. We had a good time. And so it's just been one thing after another. And the evening, I want to watch a little Final Four. I want to talk about that. Talk about FAU for a second before we get into the nitty gritty of North Texas Mean Green stuff. And now we're here. So that, Chris, if you're like, "Man, I'm not hearing that great mic that I gave you there," it's because I haven't set it up yet. It'll be the next time. Um, all right. So how did you spend the hours after winning the NIT?
Well, I talked to you. Went to bed. Got up. Got like about 3.5 hours of sleep. Got up, got everybody ready for school. And then as I was driving into work, I put on the Howard Huntsberry version. That's Howard Huntsberry, Kai's father. His version of Higher and Higher as I was driving into work, and just thinking about the whole season and everything, the McCaslin era, and so I felt a little emotional. I'm not gonna lie, I did have some tears that came down my face because I knew that it was all gonna end. Um, so yeah, that was about it. Worked all day Friday, Saturday. Kid had a soccer game. My son's soccer team is Celtic, so they're green, and I have plenty of green to wear. All the other all the other parents are like, look at this family. They're all like decked out, coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, look at us. So, but yeah, it's my wife. Her grandma's like 94th birthday was yesterday, and her dad's birthday was on Friday. So we are down here in the small town of Schulenburg, Texas, celebrating with some family.
It is a small town, and I think I know 2 of like the 10 people from Schulenburg, which is crazy. Um, all right, back to it. So hey, FAU went out. Here, there's 2 ways to go out, right, in the NCAA tournament. One is just you got beat, whatever. Everybody kind of forgets about it, and the other is via buzzer beater. So if you want to make your moment in the NCAA tournament last, get beat by a buzzer beater, you know? And here's the thing. We'll always remember FAU being in the Final Four because they're going to always play that Lamont Butler pull-up jumper to win the game. It won. It won because I seen all the highlights. I didn't even know. I remember Keith Smart hitting that jumper, but I just remember like the highlights of it. I'm not my memory doesn't go back that far. I don't even know if I was live. But I seen the highlights of that one. I seen the highlights of Mike Jordan doing the pull up. That was not quite a buzzer beater, but classic jumper. He did that. You know, he did a pull up mid range. He had the perfect form. There's nothing you can say.
It's going to be in the one shining moment.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and I mean, there you go. Like I can go back to not liking FAU a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I was rooting for them, but in that intellectual way, I was like, look, I want FAU to win. It'll be greater than win a national championship. Then we can point to FAU, North Texas, and even Charlotte and say, look at this, the top of this league that North Texas has been competing in for 10 years now has been pretty good, and we got a little due respect at the end. Won all three national championships, that prestigious CBI, the NIT, and then the NCAA. But you know what? Like I said, I think going out this way was you got to go out. You got to go out somewhere. Might as well be in an epic moment. What's fun is that John L. Davis always makes that bucket, man. It's weird that he got blocked or missed it. That he's been making that all year. Well, what are you saying? No.
No, I don't want to go out like that way. Like, I mean, if that was North Texas, I would have locked myself in a room for about a week and not talked to anybody, not ate anything, just nothing. Like, I don't want to feel that.
No, I mean, yeah, I know that they don't want to feel it. I'm saying, like, well, at least it's that. Like, we're just always remember, Mont Butler pull up jumper. Like, there's again, I think Jean, my wife, right? She was saying the same thing. She was like, I guess I didn't really want FAU to win because I don't really feel anything about them getting beat that way, and that's how I feel. Also, like, I mean, I wanted FAU to win, but the basketball fan in me, it was like, man, that was a great comeback and a great bucket. Like I said, form was perfect. He had the jumper, hand on the side. You know what I mean? Follow through. He said it's a shot that he's comfortable with.
I didn't want them to win.
You were rooting against them.
You hate
little
us.
Dusty, man? Yeah, I mean,
I don't hate them, but I mean, again, it wasn't us. We've earned the respect for our league already. Like, them getting to the Final Four and everything. Yeah. I don't want FAU to have a national title over us.
No, I get all that. I mean, like I said, I wanted it to happen maybe intellectually because it's a nice round thing. Hey, Conference USA won the national championship, the NIT, the CBI. Now you got to say, they won the NIT CBI, and then FAU get to the Final Four. I mean, whatever. Nobody really cares, But I wanted it. But it's in the same way that I wanted UAB in the final, in the NIT final. But when I was sitting there with everybody else and we're watching Utah Valley get a bucket, everybody's cheering, right? Everybody wanted Utah Valley to win. It's not as pretty, it's not as nice or whatever like that. But whatever. I think there's what your heart wants, and then there's what maybe your brain wants. It's sports, man. Makes you do crazy things. So here's the thing. It's not going to happen, but it just popped into my brain. Let's just say Dusty Mace texts Jared Mosley and it's like, hey, I'll go coach up there in Dallas. Would you say yes? Like, how quickly would you say yes?
I would have said yes yesterday. He's gonna get the Lane Kiffin contract, so he's getting like a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, all that really matters for Dusty May is the buyout, because it's essentially like a 1 year rental.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be other jobs that open. What is Jim Larinaga? I think we talked about it before. Larinaga at Miami, Leonard Hamilton, Florida State, even the Indiana job, right? That's probably where he wants to be because he grew. I mean, he started as a manager under Bobby Knight,
Yep.
so like, I mean, that's the area where he's from. But yeah, he's going to get like a 10 year, probably, probably close to maybe $2 million a year. I would suspect something like that.
That's not bad. Yeah, I always forget we have different levels of listener, right? Like I think usually we talk, and a lot of the long-time listeners kind of know what we're talking about. But I know this is the NIT wins first podcast after, so we got new listeners. Let me just say, so I'm Adam. This is Greg. Greg, say hi.
Uh,
And this is the basketball version of this podcast. Usually, if you listened to before, you may there's another guy that it's Aldo. Aldo usually does the football stuff with me. Okay, well we have Greg on. It's just a matter of scheduling. I mean, so I just got back from Las Vegas where I was there for the NIT tournament. Greg was at home, so he was watching on TV. And we podcasted immediately after the game, and we talked a lot about Grant McCaslin, who at the time we strongly suspected, like with 99% certainty, was leaving Texas Tech. That has been confirmed, announced, all the other good stuff. I mean, it like I said, it tweaked me a little bit to see him be like, what's up, Red Raider Nation? Wreck 'em. And then him walking his little red shirt. I was like, man, yeah, I have to wear red for my rec league game. And then they were like, hey, we're wearing red this weekend. I was like, can we switch back to green, please? We wear
that's
green
funny.
and then we wear red. Red's our alternate. And I'm like, I can't wear this. So I have to wear this red right now. And I don't like it. I got to tell you right now. So there you go. I think it is. I wrote about this. It's time, for a lot of reasons. One of which is including it's been 6 years. I think he's ready for the next challenge. I think he won about everything that you can win at North Texas within reason. NIT won it. CBI won it. Conference USA regular season titles. He won 2 of them. Conference USA tournament. He won it. How about individual awards? Are your players getting any? Yeah, I got a couple of guys. Conference USA Player of the Year. All right. Well, is anybody going pro? Yeah. Thomas Bell, Mike Miller, Zach Simmons. Was it Dangu? I'm trying to think of somebody else that went. And they're just off the top of my head. It's 4 dudes that went pro. They're playing overseas, playing like in Britain and whatever. But hey, those are professional basketball players, right? So that's about everything. Are these good dudes? Yeah. Do they come back and love the program? Yeah. Look at I can't even think of that name. The little shooter guy. The guy's little white dude shooting. I can't even think.
DJ Draper.
DJ Draper. Yeah. He's back. He does like the color commentary on the broadcast sometimes. He started Bleed Green with his friend, JJ Murray, and lots of people connect with the program. You have all the things that you could want. Right? He gave you everything that he could possibly get in a program. What about connection with the fan base? Yes, everybody loves the guy. The media, yeah, they all love the guy. I think he's making this move to Texas Tech mostly for like a professional reason. He wants to win a national championship and he wants to compete. He doesn't want to need to be perfect in the regular season the way you need to be in Conference USA. And let's be honest, probably in the American too. I don't trust them to be like, well, you sure did a lot of winning. They're gonna find a reason. I really believe if UAB upset FAU, that the tournament selection committee would have found a reason to keep FAU out. FAU to win the Final Four.
Nah.
Would have stuck them in a playing game.
They would have won the playing game. UAB would have won the playing game. We would have won the playing game. So FAU was getting in no matter what.
So I mean, I say all that to say, like, I think that I think he liked it here. I think without reading between the lines, I think he didn't like that it was so hard to get a fan base in there. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors in it. Just people like attendance declining across the nation in a lot of areas. Everything from movie theaters to basketball to college football. That people are not going to games as often. The pandemic was in the middle of that. Inflation, whatever in there, all of it. But uh, Johnny Jones had about 4,500 people at his games, and those teams, while loved, were not as good, not as complete as these teams. And just by the numbers, right? 31 wins in history, in this one most in history, and it's hard for him to get people to come out there. I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what it is for each individual person. I think it's kind of like human nature. It's hard, yeah. You have the best TV. I got 75-inch TV with the fastest internet, and I can have all the entertainment in the world at my fingertips. I just press it. I don't even have to do it. Just say, "Hey Siri, put on some Avengers or something," and then movie comes on. It's amazing. And you're like, I got to get up and go to the game. I got to walk over there. Just whatever. I get it, but then I'm saying if you want a coach, you got to support the coach. And sometimes it ain't money. Sometimes it's just buying a $10 ticket and sitting your butt down for 2.5 hours and watching your team win.
Yeah. Well, he did look pretty happy when he all those pictures and those graphics that they already had in the practice facility. I'm like, man, you can't print those. You cannot print those overnight. They had those there like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, his voice is gravelly, and I like that. It was like, hey, this guy was cheering and coaching up last night, huh? I mean, Texas Tech, to their credit, they saw a good coach and they hired him. That's what you got to do. And they're whining and dining him right now. It's the honeymoon period. Everybody's smiling. They all want to touch his hand, shake his hand, and they're all dreaming up what he's going to do over there. And I'm sure he'll be successful because he's a very good coach. He won at Arkansas State. He won before that in all those JUCO colleges that nobody cares to talk about. And then here at North Texas, right? Same deal. We took him from Arkansas State. Here he didn't like the Arkansas State very much. He didn't like the administration. And so anyway, good stuff. It's probably going to be Ross Hodge, the next guy. That was Grant McCasland's lead assistant, long rumored to be the guy. And, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm cool with it. Insiders, they all like to say that Ross Hodge was the kind guy. There are rumors that Reuben Jones and Aaron Scott stayed in the years that they stayed, because I know Reuben Jones is kind of rumored to leave because of Ross Hodge and not Grant McCasland, right? Grant McCasland's a good coach and, leader of the organization in that way. But Ross Hodge was the guy that people really cared about, not that they didn't care about Mac, but that, it's that one. And, you can interpret that whichever way or however you feel about it. But I think that means something. I know that you heard some rumors about Scott. Everybody's recruiting these guys. I'll just say that off the top. But what have you heard about our top 3 guys?
I haven't heard anything about Reuben. I'm sure there's other teams recruiting him, but I mean, I think everybody wants to know is like, who is Texas Tech recruiting from this team? And, one would be the obvious is Tyler Perry, but I think that Tyler Perry's probably going to try the pro waters over transferring to Texas Tech. He may want to go follow McCasland. Like, that's fine. But I think he wants to go pro. And then the other one is Aaron Scott. Like, I think I've heard that Texas Tech was trying to bring him on board.
I mean, I can see that. Like, Grant McCasland said about Aaron Scott, I think it's after his freshman year, that he could be one of the best all-time at North Texas. And I was like, man, that's high praise for a guy averaging like 2 points a game. I don't know what you say, but, he, like Max says all the time, if people saw how we practice and the way we practice, like, he's made some amazing plays in practice, right? Where he'll go, and I think he told a story to me after the Middle Tennessee game. He's like, this is one time Aaron Scott was over on the right side, and he flew all the way over across the court, from the top of the key all the way down to the bottom, and made the most spectacular block I've ever seen in practice, right? So he comes out here and makes a block against Middle. Yeah, I've seen that before, right? Because he's done more spectacular things in practice. So it makes sense that you're looking at Aaron Scott, and then trying to get him to, I guess, a bigger, shinier place, more with more money, all that other good stuff. So I had heard that late in the game, a group of donors got together, reached in their sofas, pulled out some change, and was like, "Hey, we can get up to 2.2, Mr. McGaslin. Would that sway you from moving out to Lubbock?" And he was like, "No, I already kind of made the commitment, blah, blah, blah." All right. So I would say, look, you got that 2.2, whatever you got, deep in your sofa, found some coins, found a couple 100,000 or whatever. Consider donating that to the NIL Collective. Right now, there's the one. It's like the Tower Collective, a secretive organization, shadow organization. And you can, help to ensure that these guys, I mean, if you're like, well, they're already getting money. Yeah, give them a raise. They won a national championship. They won the NIT, right? National Invitation Tournament. Um, if there's ever a time to raise up the donation, I mean, now's it, right? Yeah.
So a lot to unpack there. All right, you had the donors come in late in the game to try and sway McCaslin, right? I think if you have that offer right as the season ends, like he's probably staying in Denton, and he's not talking to Texas Tech. But because he committed to them, like it felt more emotional than like tactical or a sound decision. It's just like, hey, don't go. Here's all this money type of thing. And at that point, who knows what discussions that Grant might have had with Ross? Maybe Grant, knew that Ross was going to be offered the job at that point, and he didn't want to go back. Because then, if you're Ross, like, how do you feel? Like, I'm about to be offered this head coaching job, and now they've come in and said, no, 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 you're not getting it because we want to try and keep McCaslin, right? So it's a tricky thing to play there. The other thing about where you're talking NIL money is like looking at Texas Tech's roster, they spent close to $2.2 million on their NIL just for basketball players alone,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a lot of quality players. So you can make that money go pretty far for a basketball team like North Texas. Now, you don't have to spend the $2 million on NIL stuff, right? Even if you spent probably less than $1 million on a couple players that you brought in, you could put together a really quality mid-major program. Like, I mean, really quality program. And then the other thing would be is that, if Ross Hodge is the guy, and what is his salary going to be like? It's not going to be like, they're not going to offer him the $2 million deal. It's probably going to be closer to what McCaslin is making now, or was making before he left to Texas Tech. So his base salary was like 800,000. So maybe somewhere in the range of like 700,000 is his base salary. But increase the assistant pool. And I tweeted it out yesterday. Like, follow the Eric Morris model that football had. Give him a large assistant pool. Let him bring in quality guys, and build an A+ staff, right? Because one rule that's coming out in college basketball is you can add 2 additional assistant coaches to your bench. They can't go out and recruit, but you can add 2 more assistants. So that gives you a total of 4 assistants plus the head coach. So I mean, there's different ways we can make that money go, and I think you kind of have to spread it out instead of just going in one specific area.
Yeah, I think at this level, there's a lot of holes to plug. I was thinking about that with Dusty May. He came out with that article and was like, "Yeah, man, I wanted to quit. The facilities are terrible." That's also a way, like, now that I have everybody looking at me and everybody loves me, how about we go fix these facilities, man? This locker room
Yeah.
sucks. That sucks. I wanted to quit, and I think it's one little heartwarming. Wow, what a journey for these guys. But it's also like a way to tell the donors and everybody, no, I really need a basketball facility over here, man. Yeah, I got to fix this up because it sucks. And it's a similar thing here. Is like, I don't know that like we don't have enough money. We meaning like that the school and the donors and all that other stuff to give our head coach Texas Tech experience, right? We're not going to be able to give you $2 million for NIL, a $20 million practice facility, a new arena, and then 10,000 people in the stadium every night. We just don't have that yet, and so we had Grant McCasland when we had him, and he leaves. And then here's the thing about building a program, right? Is that it has to keep going beyond one or coach, right? There's been a lot of programs that are basically one coach, right? Like Mike Krzyzewski, um, you know, uh, the dude from Syracuse. I can't think of his name right now.
Boeheim.
Yeah, jeez, I'm terrible. Um, but then there's some that are like our programs, and some of this is a little bit like both, right? Mark Few's been at Gonzaga for 1,000 years, but in the couple years before that, there was another guy, and he left, right? And then whatever, Mark Few picked it up and kept it going. There's a lot of factors that make a program keep going. It's a lot of it's consistent investment. It's I think a lot of it is care. If you care, you're gonna do the little things like show up to this, show up to that, encourage this guy, encourage that guy, and like I said, make it a great place to work. Right? If you're the coach, and you have to come into a dingy little office, you're gonna be looking for a way out, right? If you come in and you're like, this office is great, the fans are great, the donors are great, and all those things I have to do. I gotta do the coaches show. It's great, it's fun. Everybody, it's there's no part of my life that sucks. Then that's good, right? If you're like, it's just toxic, or it's nobody shows up, the nobody showing up is worse, right? The toxic that can be changed. You're like, it just people are a little too obsessed. But I'm here and nobody else is here. It's just me and like that guy. What am I doing out here? You know what I mean? I want to go where people care. So I think that's important. And those are the things like I mentioned that because that's where you can start out, people, right? That's where you can I don't got $1 million. I can't do nothing. Just show up.
Show up.
Yeah. So, and that was the thing is that like I know some people couldn't, right? They're like, I went to the conference tournament, and I couldn't get out there, and then everybody said, well, I'm going to turn that energy, into a tailgate party or a watching party at one of the various places. Friend of the show, Tony D'Souza, he threw one because he couldn't get out of work. He was trying to get his boss to get him out of there. Sometimes circumstances, right? That's fine. But it can't be just like, well, Tony's not there, therefore nobody's there, right? Like, there has to be more than just him. And so, Tony's at everything. So, everybody had a good time at those watch parties. Round of applause. Like, that's the kind of thing I would have liked to see in Vegas. And again, it's not pointed to any one people, but it's the entire group. We as North Texas didn't show up with the same number of people as Wisconsin did. And if you're like, well, Wisconsin is a national brand. All right, well, they had 2/3 of the arena, and we had like a third of the section there. Maybe we could have had two sections, right? Can we say that we're not a national brand, but we're a very good basketball team for 6 years? Did that win enough fans to maybe get to Las Vegas to get two sections? You're like, well, how about maybe a section and a half, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit there, and that's what I'm saying. Is like it can't be Wisconsin, okay? It can't be 2/3. It can't be that side of the arena and then this side of the arena. But can we get half of one side?
Okay,
so.
well, we brought more fans than what UAB, right?
Yeah, UAB didn't bring nobody.
And what was our fan base compared to Utah Valley?
Utah Valley had a strong contingent for the semifinal. I think we were more than them. We had more than them. But it was hard to tell because they were wearing like the same green as we were wearing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I accidentally almost walked to the tailgate because I was like, "Is this?" I was like, "Oh wait, we don't have a bear claw. Wait, where am I? Let me get out of here."
Okay, so I mean, what can you say about UAB because they've been more of a national program? Like, I mean, they were better when we were going through the shit that was Tony Benford.
Yeah.
And they were winning NCAA tournament games. They were winning Conference USA championships, and then they had a brief downfall, but it wasn't like a Tony Benford type of downfall. And then they brought in Andy Kennedy, so I mean, they're going through the same struggles like that. I mean, and that's more of a basketball program than we've ever been.
Yeah. I'm gonna look at it again. I'm looking at this section, and I see there's not a lot of people there. You can see in the stands. I'm looking through my own pictures. That it's kind of hard to tell because UAB wears a green, and they also wear like black, and it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, there's a smattering of fans hither and thither. There was a lot of Wisconsin fans there too that stayed the whole week, and they were like, "I'm gonna watch the game." There were a couple of Iowa fans that had first row tickets here behind me, behind like the media bench, and they were watching it.
Because they couldn't afford the Final Four tickets. Did you see like how
Yeah,
the price of the women's Final Four versus the men's Final Four?
yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I read something that was interesting about that. That said, one thing that the women's Final Four has done is not do anything, right? Caitlin Clark has been Caitlin Clark at Iowa for 4 years. You got time to build up her legend. A lot of people are coming on to her now, but she's been there, and so it's like building a little legend, there for a while. I think credit to Jelly Walker for staying at UAB for 2 seasons. He had like the Barstool guys excited about him. But if he left and he goes somewhere else, you kind of lose that little momentum there. That the women's game, there's not a lot of transfer portal activity or as much, and it's a little bit more old school men's college basketball in that way, right? You can kind of understand who a team's going to be for a little bit, and then follow them, and then that creates excitement and investment. I mean, I don't know any of these dudes on San Diego State. Tell you the truth, you know what I mean? There's a lot of them like you find out this year, but you know,
Well, that's because you didn't stay up late watching Mountain West basketball.
yeah. But like I mean, like FAU had just a bunch of dudes. Like I knew who they were because we were doing Conference USA stuff, but I couldn't say anything. If you're like, I'm a national guy, why should I watch FAU? I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that are just guys. You know what I mean, like I don't know, and they're good on the night, but I don't know, like they're just some guys, and they're gonna finish like fifth in Conference USA. I don't know. I don't know that you really need to know any of them. Yeah. Anyway, that was the interesting thing about the what you call it thing. So my daughter just woke up here and looking at me like, what's going on? And I told her there's pancakes downstairs. Um, so anyway, so there's that. We can show up. We can support our team. You know that we're gonna have a good squad. Don't wait till it happens. Go in anticipation of it happening. Like I'll wait till they win a national championship, and then maybe I'll get some bleacher seats at the pit.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an important offseason for the athletic department because you want to keep this momentum rolling into next year, right? If you're Mosley and his crew is like, okay, we won the NIT championship. How can we parlay that into bigger crowds, right? And I mean, one of those things is a guy like Ross Hodge and keeping the momentum going. But the other thing is like, okay, now how do we get those fans that watch the game at these watch parties at home
To the game.
that are posting, yeah, that are posting on their Facebook page like, hey, look at my school, we won. Okay, now go show up. Like, how do we make that happen?
One thing that I think is cool, and I talk about this all the time. So I'm leaving Chaffetz Arena here in St. Louis, and then there's a little party bus there taking you to patios or wherever, right? The various bars and things. They're like, hey, yeah, well, you can come pregame at our bar, and then we'll drop you off in time for the game. And when the game's over, we'll be waiting for you. You hop on the bus, and then we'll drive back to the bar. I don't know that that's a thing right now at the Super Pit, or they even allow them to do it. But I know that's a thing that I would have taken part of if I were 22 or at 21. Like that's the time. Go do a little drinking, have some fun, and you get an appropriate amount of lubrication before the game, and then that's it. I don't know. It's little things like that I think that everybody can make the game day experience a little bit better. But yeah, there's I understand why businesses are not doing that because it's not a thing. You're like, yeah, there's like 3,000 people in there. I want to spend money on this bus. I got to pay this bus driver. He's got to go out there. I mean, somebody's gonna be a little too drunk. Why am I dealing with that? For what? For what? An extra $20? I get why that's not the thing, but hey, I can just tell you right now. Just go to the games. Just make it a thing. Like any good habit, you have to start doing it, and then you just keep doing it. Right? It's a thing. I bought season tickets after I graduated, and I would go to them, and it was a good time. And I can tell you, there's sometimes I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't feel like getting ready. kind of just want to stay here in my in my basketball shorts, just kicking it on the sofa here. But I was like, you know what? I bought the tickets. I'm gonna go. I'll go to the game, watch them play like a FIU or something, you know. And it's a good time. You have a good time. And if you didn't, just give them away. I don't know. It's the thing. You have to like basketball. And I encourage you to try to like basketball. Don't listen to everybody else, and don't listen to hot sports opinion. Just appreciate what basketball is. Basketball is a fun game. It's exciting. If you like soccer, you can like basketball. It's the same thing. If you like hockey, you can like basketball. It's the same thing. There's a lot of drama associated with it. A lot of many things happening within one game. Individual battles between the bigs, individual battles between the guards, combination battles where, people are running a two-man game. This and that. Basketball is a great game, and I encourage you to go watch it. Go watch a very good program play basketball. Greg's nodding right now. He forgot it was a podcast.
It's your podcast. It's not my podcast.
You see, I forgot it's a podcast. You can't nod. Nobody knows what that. They can't hear you nod unless you nod violently and hit the wall.
When there is silence after a long Adam monologue, it's usually because I'm nodding.
Sorry, my daughter's trying to get snuggle with me now. All right, so Greg, what are the major decisions? I think to me it's secure Aaron Scott, Reuben Jones, and Mulai Sissoko. I think those three guys are going to be coveted by other programs. And then I think once you do that, you can look at filling the spot that Kai Huntsberry and Tyler Perry are leaving.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Ross Hodge had that. I know I sent it to you, and I know it's been posted on the Go Mean Green interwebs and all over. And I watched it last year, but there's an interview with the Heat Check guys with Ross Hodge, and he talks about building a roster and transfer portal and kind of comparing it to when he was a junior college coach and saying, hey, when you're a JUCO coach, the transfer portal was every single year. How you built your roster was you sat down with your coaches at the end of the season and was like, okay, well, what do we want to be? What do we want to look like? It was a change from year in to year out, right? So I think for him, if he is the guy, the first thing is finding the staff and then deciding on, what exactly do we want to be. Now, he might have in his head already what he wants to be, and so he can reach out to some players, right? I know we're a little bit behind in timing of building a roster, and so that communication with transfer guys really hasn't happened over the past week because they're going to lose. The two assistant coaches are going to follow McCaslin. So Breyer and AC, those two guys are going with McCaslin at Texas Tech. So Ross is going to have a whole new staff. So yeah, once he gets a staff and they kind of decide on exactly what their roster, then go out and find those guys. And there's a ton of people in the portal still, and you can build a roster very quickly. Look at Kansas State, what they did last year with Tang. He came in near the end, and they got a roster built that took them to an Elite Eight. So I'm not saying we're going to build an Elite Eight roster. I'm just saying you can do it very quickly and build things. So I wouldn't say if you're a fan we have to go out and find the next Tyler Perry. Oh, we have to go out and find the next Kai Huntsberry. Not exactly. We got to find, we don't know yet what Ross wants to build. Is he going to build around Reuben and Aaron Scott? Is the offense going to be dictated more to Reuben's characteristics, the things that he does well? Because, what does Reuben do well? Is he gets out and run. He plays at a great fast pace, and we haven't been that. So those are some of the decisions to come. So again, I wouldn't tie yourself down on, hey, we got to find the specific player, because really it's what type of specific player does Ross Hodge want in his system?
Yeah, and I think if hopefully Ross Hodge has picked up, and I think he has, right? We just haven't seen it in practice. That from his time with Grant here is that Grant came in with an idea of what he was going to be, and that changed a little bit, right? They famously changed to a team that values every possession, slowed it down a lot, and they won a lot of games that way. I think they both came in saying, yeah, they like the pace, they want to hurry up and sprint 5 out, and everybody kind of touch the ball, shoot, motion offense, this, that, and the other. And what they found was that they'd have a lot of success doing it this other way. And so I think, it'd be kind of silly to abandon something that's won you so much. But I think the answer is to maybe tweak it, because there's been times where you're like, we if we had a few more possessions, or if we had a different way of playing, then maybe we'd have more wiggle room, maybe a way to do this or that, or wouldn't put us or put ourselves in such a bind sometimes.
It's kind of like playing the way that they played in the NIT, right? Because they took more opportunities to run when they were there. Like they tried to push the pace and to
Mm-hmm.
create things off the fast break. Like that's what I want to see. But I'm with you with like the change of pace. I think a lot of that had to do with like the talent level of the player that you have. Like if Ross is able to go out and get higher talented players than we've had before under McCassim, well then you can get more possessions in a game, right? You can play a faster pace. The possessions won't matter. But if you're going to continue to recruit the same type of individuals that are, under recruited, chip on the shoulder type of guys, you want to keep that slower pace. You want lower number of possessions, right? If you're going to get higher efficiency guys, well, the slower the game, the less possessions help you out if you have those type of individuals.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the mark of a good coach, is that you don't have one rigid system and trying to put different guys in your system. You tweak your system, you adapt it, you coach this group of players, right? And I think Hodge and McCasland is together as a team have done a great job of doing that kind of thing, right? Like they came in and they brought in, you said that thing, who do we want to be? They lost Thomas Bell, who was tough, talented defensively, but he's limited offensively, right? I think he's added to his game in the pros, but he didn't really have a handle. He's not a shooter. And so what you can do with him, like, his best skill set is maybe throwing it to him in the post, and then he can kind of do there. So to do that, you got to slow the game down a lot. Same thing with like Drez, and who else did we lose? A couple of those other guys. It's a lot of it like, he's good in a set offense where he can come off a couple screens, catch, shoot, and three. That's the offense that makes this team the best that's run that. When he had Kai Huntsberry, Jaden Martinez, Sissoko, and I'm missing one, Edie. Those guys were known for their shooting ability. You can see some of their highlights. They're getting out and running, catching, shooting on the run. And the idea was maybe we'd lose a little bit defensively, but we're going to be able to shoot a little bit more, get out in the break a little bit more, and be a little bit more dynamic. And now that wasn't always true, and I think like Martinez had to play a lot more of the 5 than I think anybody expected him to. But they kind of tried to get a little 5 out. He shot a lot. He did some good things. Edie got hurt late in the season. That kind of took away a lot of stuff. But he was still tough. He was still a defensive player. He wasn't quite the shooter or the scorer that he was a little bit earlier in the season. And Kai Huntsberry, I think we were all like, I don't know, he can score in Division II, but this is Division I, buddy. Let's see what's going on. And then he's scoring at a ridiculous pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, when we were making a run in conference play, it was Kai Huntsberry that was the big component of that. That was kind of the change that happened during the year was like, he became more confident in himself. He wasn't, he didn't look unsure when he was playing. I know a lot of people highlighted that it was, Huntsberry would be at the top of the key and like looking for somebody to pass the ball to instead of creating offense. And then once we got into the middle of conference play, he wasn't doing that. He was creating offense. He was finding guys open, and he was finishing at the rim. And so, I mean, he really grew up, and I mean, he was a great player. And then like when we brought in Huntsberry, like you said, he was known for being a scorer, not a defender. He wasn't great as a defender early on in the season, but as the season progressed, he got really good at defending.
Yeah, he held Jelly Walker to 21 points and then matched him with his own 21 points. I think that was just an epic performance there. I'll remember that for a long, long time. Because he was a primary defender and then at times the primary scorer. A lot. So you mentioned him kind of getting more comfortable. I think a lot of that was, the political dynamics of a team, right? You come to a team, you're like, yeah, I was known as a scorer, and this is kind of how I would do it, but I know this is not my team. I'm new here, and I know you're the dude, Tyler Perry. So, like I'm trying to play off you and kind of defer to you, and what they needed, they're like, yeah, we brought you in to do your thing, so you got to do your thing. And once they figured out a combination and a partnership, they were dynamic. I think I talked about it on the post game podcast from the hotel. Was that like I think in their last they were averaging like 30 something points a game, 40 points a game. Um, the Perry Huntsberry combination. They carried the squad. They were primary scorers, and a lot of that was like you go score, now I get the ball, and I go score, and the defense had nothing. They couldn't isolate or concentrate on one or two of those guys. So, it was a great. Obviously 31 wins and a title, second in the conference. Of course, it was a great time, right? Of course, it was a lot of success.
Yeah.
Good players. So going back to it, right, that's the thing. Who do you want to be? Says Ross Hodge probably right now, and he's putting together who do I want to be, and then he puts together a staff, and then asks the staff who do we want to be, and I think to their credit, they picked up. He was part of the group that picked up Huntsberry and Edie and Martinez and Sissoko. All those guys contributed a ton. They went 4 for 4, I think, on that. And I know everybody's like, maybe Huntsberry, and it wasn't Sissoko earlier, and Martinez was not as good late, but I think 4 out of 4 on those transfers. That was huge pickups. And so you're right. Yeah, you can transform your team, and they can fit into your team easily and then go out there and win. Sissoko probably stays if, it all like it matches up. They can't on keep that, and I'm a big fan of his. I thought he did great.
Yeah.
I think you need a backup 5 because I think Usman's leaving.
Yeah. I don't. Everything that I've heard, seen, um, is that Usman will not be back next year. So yes, you do need a backup five. I mean, you have was Morgan, who's been there, who hasn't. He's the young kid from the Dallas area that has a lot of offensive potential, but I think that he didn't get to play because of the defensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then you have the young point guard Christian Moore, who I've been very high on, and I want to see. I don't know if he can be the starting point guard next year, but I think like he's going to play a pretty big role
And
in what this team is.
he was a garbage time all-star there for a little bit,
He was garbage time all star all year when we did have garbage time,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he's a pretty good shooter, and you see like just from the bits and pieces of him playing at the end of games, you see the potential there of like a dude that can get into the middle of a defense and create for other people, and has the ability to knock down an open three, and that that kind of carries along the line of having a high efficiency team. Like if you're going to play a slow tempo, you want to have a dude late in the shot clock that can get into the middle of the lane and get shots for other people and then hit threes like he did. So and then I mean you have Matthew Stone and really for Stone like he's not going to be a starter next year. There's just no way but you hope that he gets better at knocking down the open threes, right? Whether it's a mental thing or not, like he has the potential to be like a good role player off the bench, right? Like because he hustles, plays hard, but I mean, there's still some pieces there missing to his game. Got to work on that half court shot. That was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
Well, I mean,
But
yeah,
that
and again, we're just a couple guys, right? But I think Matt Stone, if he can develop that stand still 3-point shot, he can make himself a weapon. Like I said, because he hustles, he plays tough defense, and he'll rebound. Those are things that keep you on the court. And if you make yourself a threat being a shooter, you can play big minutes. And maybe you're not, and all these other things. Can he jump out the gym? Does he have the greatest handle? No, but he can shoot. He can play. He's a 3-and-D guy, right? And he go out there and rebound. I think that kind of stuff can keep you on the court for a long time. And I mean, that's basically what Aaron Scott was doing for a while. Like just stand still 3, and then he just adds all this athleticism to it.
yeah, and then you have the freshman that's coming in, Alex Cotton, who's a 6'5" wing guy. Didn't play a lot this year in high school because he was injured, but I mean, he really burst onto the scene last year with his outside shooting ability and his ability to play defense as well too. So, I think he's still gonna, he signed his letter of intent. I don't know if he's gonna ask to be released from that so that he could go to Texas Tech, but I think like
Hmm.
he ends up at North Texas, and that's like I expect him to play next year. Like I expect him to be like a Reuben Jones when he was a freshman, like an Aaron Scott when he was a freshman, to earn some quality minutes, because we're gonna need dudes that can score. And if you got a 6'5" wing guy that can score, right, there's not a lot of those in college basketball.
Oh, there's a place for you there. Yeah. So I mean, I think college basketball is led by the elder statesmen, so to speak. There's just a lot of situations where you have to keep your head or understand this, that, and the other. And like truly special freshmen are usually just so talented that you can't keep them off the floor. But I think there's times where then they kind of run up against somebody that just kind of is a little more wily, a little bit more of a veteran, and they can kind of stymie them for a little bit before.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, a great example of that is Duke versus Tennessee this year. Like where you had Tennessee had like all the old guys that are playing ball at the park, and Duke was a bunch of young, fresh faces, and they beat them, right? Or
Yeah.
Duke lost to them. So, but getting back to your point about freshmen in college basketball, we didn't see a ton of impact freshmen like we used to be. It used to be like during the early part of the one and done years, it was like Kevin Durant's type of players coming in, make an impact in year one for a team, take them far in the tournament, and then it was done. Now, what the transfer portal has done is that all these coaches are valuing experience over rather a high school freshman coming in because you
Hmm.
you you know what the experienced dude is capable of bringing. You're not 100% sure of what the freshman guy's picking.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing. Is like I think there's value in getting a high school guy and bringing him along in your program, but it is risky for the coaches because like I don't know, I'm gonna spend time, effort developing him for a little bit. He's gonna leave, or if he doesn't get playing time, if I don't pick the right guy, this, that, and the other, and then scholarships are valuable. You wanna spend them on the right guy for your program. That's like Tyler Perry likes being in Denton, and then like you're like, yeah, well, Denton's not as as attractive as like a Miami. But then Tyler Perry said on this show, yeah, I mean, I don't really like Las Vegas. He said, Vegas is not my kind of place. I like a cookout. So you have to figure out what it is that this player likes and if he fits your program. Not every place needs to be downtown in amongst in New York or something like that. Some people
Yeah,
want it to
so
change the pace. They want something quiet.
just thinking about it, I mean, we have what, six open scholarships?
Yeah,
That's
it's a
half
lot.
of a roster.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that six of them you can get a whole squad, a whole starting five plus a bench guy, but six.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's seven because of Perry, Uzman, Edie, Martinez, Zephyr, who transferred mid-year, Brown, and Huntsberry.
I like it. There's opportunity. North Texas is a good program. They have winning tradition now, and you got room. We have openings to come in here and win some games and to be the guy. Um, Again, I look at it. I think Perry's going to leave. I think everybody feels like Perry's going to leave. And so I think you need a top scorer. Huntsberry's going to leave. I think you need a secondary scorer. And now, like we said last year, right? You can go back and read what we said about come this year, and we're mostly right. It's like you need a guy to handle the ball. You need a secondary ball handler to give that guy a break. You need a primary scorer, and then you need somebody that can take the pressure off him and can score a little bit, right? That's a Huntsberry. We didn't know that was going to be Huntsberry. We didn't know who that was going to be. It could be any combination of guys. And like last year, it was um, Thomas Bell had the high usage rate, right? That was your four man. This year, it's Tyler Perry, Kai Huntsberry. That's your one and two guards, right? It can be different. And then you need a big. I like Sissoko as that big. We're losing Usman, which is tough because he was very good. Um, and so you need a backup guy, and I think ideally is you recruit a guy that can make Sissoko put him on the bench, right? You build depth by pushing your starters down. I think you know what I mean. Like that's the way you want to do. I want to get a better guy than I got now and push my starter level dude to the. You're like, well, that's kind of rough. That's what FAU did. Mike Forrest was the starter last year. He got moved to the bench because they had a few more talented dudes in there, and that builds it builds their whole squad. So I think that's important. I'd like to see like Aaron Scott. I'd like to see another Aaron Scott type dude. Because Aaron's he's in his third year right now. So
Yeah.
next year's gonna be his fourth year. Maybe you get a guy to come in and learn from him the way Aaron Scott learned from like Thomas Bell, where in practice you can say, "We need you to do what Thomas Bell's doing every time," and then he's like, "Okay," like you can kind of build that culture of working hard, all that stuff. So I think finding a guy like that to learn from an Aaron Scott right now is the time.
Yeah, you want to find guys that can learn from Aaron Scott and Reuben Jones and pass it on. And so, like, I think we had this conversation offline where, I was thinking, like, maybe the dudes that we bring in have some extra years. Like, you're not bringing in a transfer who has just 1 year left. You're bringing in a transfer who has, 2 years left. So they can pass it on to the next dude.
Hmm.
At the same time, you're losing 7 guys. You're going to need some experienced dudes in the locker room, right? So if you can bring in an Edie or a Martinez type of dude who's been around, played 4 or 5 years, those guys are going to be valuable as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, you need the right mix of veterans and talent. Yeah, you need somebody like, no, this is the way it's done, and so they calm everybody down, and then somebody with fresh ideas to say, I don't care how it's done, because I'm going to do it this way to break the mold a little bit.
And we say all this, and the good thing is that Ross Hodge has experience doing exactly what we said.
Yeah,
Like he has experience building rosters.
yeah, I think they did a great job, and so we got these guys, and like, I can see how they fit. It's kind of hard to tell that like where exactly they'll be, where exactly they'll go. I did not have Sissoko being the number one center, starting center, and basically single-handedly bullying Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, and then we said you got to think about teams like UAB and Trey Jemison, and they got a lot of bigs and athletes in there, and he beat them right. He was in there battling with them, and he held his own. North Texas out rebounded UAB in that game in the championship game, and that's a lot on Mulai Sissoko. That was a great pickup just for that piece there, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, and Martinez too, right? Like he came in as a shooter. He did a lot of that early. He got hurt. He was working his way back. Kind of time right now, but I think he had nice minutes in the NIT tournament. He didn't play as well in the championship game as he did in the semifinal versus Wisconsin, but he had a nice putback dunk. That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, he came in as a shooter, and everybody thought like the pick and pop stuff with Tyler Perry was just gonna like take off, and it
I mean, like
it
some
had
Oral
its
Roberts type things. Yeah.
yeah, it had its moments. Like, I mean, we don't beat FIU on the road without Jaden Martinez,
Yeah.
but where Martinez really excelled throughout the year was his defensive ability. Like, I thought he was excellent as a defensive sub. Whenever Usman came out, the defense actually got a little bit better, and he was a great rebounder. Like, he
Yeah.
came in, he blocked dudes out, he got a lot of rebounds. So, like, maybe he wasn't the guy that we thought he was going to be, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have a huge impact on the team.
Yeah,
'Cause he
and
did.
then yeah, he did. He did. He was one of the subtle guys. Like again, Tyree Eady, super tough. He had a broken wrist, and he's out there. There was one time the ball's going to his right side, his broken wrist side, and he puts it behind his back, and then puts his left hand up to try to rebound it with just one. He got the rebound, and I mean, yeah, that's just you talking about like tough and gritting through it. That's that's what he did. And then Reuben Jones, he came back from an injury, rehabbed it, came back and was, the all-around kind of contributor that you need on a basketball team. Somebody that does a little bit, that covers multiple roles. Ball handler. He had some of the best passes of the season. Defender, slasher, scorer, fast break dude, rebounder. He did a little bit of everything. He hit a three to open the game. I'd like to see more Reuben Jones. I think you could build a team around this Reuben Jones. I think Reuben can still get 15 to 20 points a game, especially if he keeps adding that jumper to that jumper that he has. He can get to the rim almost anytime he wants. He got ripped once by Jelly Walker, but that was kind of a weird possession. Um,
Yeah,
I
that was. Yeah, that keep going, keep going. That was a weird possession.
yeah, that I like him scoring 50. I think you could build a team around him. And so, like I said, we need a primary scorer. Maybe we have that on the squad, and maybe we just get a secondary scorer. I don't know. Like I think Hodge and they'll have some conversations and they'll figure out something. I think you got to bring a guy in that can do it just to keep the guy honest, right? Like that's you always need competition internally to prepare you for competition externally.
Here's the thing: is like if you build a team around Reuben Jones, who's a great dude to come off the bench and not and be the Reuben Jones after him, is Christian Moore. Like
Yeah.
they're Moore is not the same height wise, right? He's not 6'5", and he's not going to guard the great players, but his game is similar to Reuben Jones offensively. Like you see the little pieces here of him, like we've mentioned before, getting in the lane. He's left-handed, can hit the three. So like I think if we're gonna do that, we're gonna build around Ruben. You're gonna see the faster pace, and you're gonna see dudes that aren't like probably more athletic at cutting to the basket because where Ruben excels, and then we keep saying this, is just like he has great vision, passing ability. So you want dudes that are able to get open, and I felt like a lot of times this year's, we had guys that just stood around the perimeter instead of cutting to the basket.
Yeah.
Like if you get open and you cut to the basket, Ruben's gonna find you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm already getting excited about next season. I think it's going to be It's going to be a tough conference. The American is tough, but I think it's going to help recruit better players because you get to say, hey, you get to go play against a Memphis. You get to play against the FAU. Went to the Final Four. Come to Denton, right? Like if maybe you're thinking about going this way, that way. Come here. You can win a national championship here. It's not unreasonable. You can be the number one team in the nation here. It's not unreasonable, et cetera, right? You can really sell the program at this point for the right kind of guy. I think everybody else is selling everybody else on the sort of the same things. But there's that next tier of dudes that are very good basketball players that you can get and you can go challenge them. Like you look at what FAU did, right? Elijah Martin. I think they're all been recruited by people now that they're good, right? Gaffney played at UConn, I think. Like even like Mike Forrest, Golden, Rosado. None of those guys are like that much better, if at all, than what North Texas had. They just played together as a team, and like you can get a Gaffney, you can get a Martin, you can get a what's his name, John L. Davis. You can get all those guys or a version of those guys somewhere, and North Texas has had that kind of caliber here. The thing is to get them, keep them together, and get them playing the right way, and they want to. You need a coach that fosters that kind of environment. Credit to McGaslin, credit to Hodge, right? They kept talking about love and all this other stuff, and then you hear these guys quoting it. That's how you know that the program ethos is permeated throughout the team, right? They're all quoting. They're talking like coaches. Right? Good stuff.
My mom just walked in. She said pancakes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. The sound of pancakes means it is time for us to close this down. Thanks for listening to the show. I don't know how many more basketball podcasts we'll have. We'll probably get on once, like, I think the transfer portal opens up and guys can sign soon. But we're going to pivot in a little bit and start talking about spring football. Stay tuned for more of that. Eric Morris is out there trying to coach guys up. But, it's spring football. I can tell you everything about everything right now. It's we love the way the guys are practicing. Everybody's faster, stronger. We love what we have. Guys looking good out there. It's spring. Yeah, everybody looks good. And we'll figure out who's going to play quarterback for that squad and what and all that good stuff. Open against Cal. That should be a good one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're done. Go Mean Green.